Welcome everyone to EA Global Summit 2021. This is Sujat from EA Global Summit organizing team. It's our privilege to have Peter Cooper in our presence, the consultant business administration MBA and enterprise architect specialized in enterprise engineering, presenting based upon enterprise engineering, generating working application with USoft low coding platform. And I also thank everyone for your interest in joining this session. And for your kind information that we will be muting all the participants throughout the session. So please use the chat window to drop your question to the speaker. Your queries will be answered at the end of the session. We request everyone to visit the allotted Microsoft Teams channel to communicate with Peter after the session. Peter have accepted to stay in the channel to have one-to-one discussion and answer all your queries. The link to the MS Teams channel is posted in the chat window for your quick reference. If you have any difficulties in connecting to Teams, please let us know through the chat window or write us at registration@eaglobalsummit.com. Thanks once again for your interest and support to EA Global Summit 2021. Without any further ado, I'll request Peter to start his presentation. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. There were some technical issues. So because of the time, I will start directly. The purpose was to start with a poll, but I will skip that and then we have some time extra. So welcome to you all and thanks for this opportunity to contribute in this event. I'm Peter Kuipers, for the one who didn't join my session at Wednesday. I'm 53 years old. I'm living in Eindhoven in the Netherlands with my girlfriend Yola. Will you be meeting during this presentation? I have a son of 15 years old, Tim, and besides that I'm an enterprise architect. I'm mainly a business administrator, and I'll come back to that later. So for my agenda, I first do some introductions about myself and enterprise engineering. That will be mostly the same as last Wednesday because it's necessary to understand the rest of the presentation. And I added an extra example to make sure that that is good understood. After that, I'll go to the architecture that we've been doing together with USoft, the company I will introduce you also. We look at the result and I give you a live demonstration. After that, there are some questions and answers. I don't know how much time we have left for that. However, after that, we can go to the Teams session and I can answer any other questions. Also, the people of USoft, especially the CEO, Hans Canisius, are in the call as well, and they will be joining the Teams session, so you can ask them directly questions about USoft. I'm 53 years old, and when I was 18, I wanted to become an F-16 pilot. That never happened, unfortunately. However, I joined in 1987 the Royal Military Academy. And what I've learned and the insight that I've gained from that is that you learn how organizations work. You learn how to motivate people and make them responsible. And I had the theory of Mintzberg that claimed that an organization is the division of labor into tasks performed and the coordination of these tasks. And I learned that at the time, didn't know anything what it meant. However, it will become more important in this presentation. Then in 1993, I did leading people in practice. I was an officer of a Hawk firing platoon with a crew with the youngest 18 years old and the oldest was 53, like I'm now. What I learned there is that people are the core of every organization and the most important and vital elements of that organization. Decisions can be made best by some people that are most close to there where decisions should be made. And teams cooperate well if the coordination between the individuals works very well. Management should only be informed and managers should enable people. Then in 1998, I decided to leave the military and I became a BI consultant. However, in that time, it wasn't called business intelligence. That came only, I think, at 2000. However, you learn to be fully data-minded. You look at organizations as data. And what I've learned is business information is very important to lead a business effectively. Then in 2007, I was a business intelligence architect for Philips at the time. And then you become total-minded because you're lacking other things that are important for that organization as well. So you start to look at processes, you start to look at roles, you start to look at business rules, and most of all, you see that an organization needs governance for all of those. Then in 2016, I read a book of Jan Dietz and his enterprise engineering and the methodology demo. And it's a human-centric approach to understand the essence of an organization. And there, for the first time, I met a methodology that combined business information, business processes, and business rules integrated in one model. And that helped a lot. I do this presentation together with people of USoft, with the CEO Hans Canisius, and USoft is a Dutch-based low-code development platform provider, and they have more than 30 years experience of developing core applications. Because they are focused on business rules integration, it has a very close relation to demo, and they are able to implement a demo environment very well. But to put it all in perspective, after we have met and we had a first brainstorm session about the possible architecture at the 4th of August. Then at the 11th of August, we decided to make a proof of concept, and I made contact with the organization of this event if it was possible to expand with one other session to be able to present the results of this. We start building at the 19th of August, and we had to consolidate at the 30th of August to show the results eventually at this event. What we also have done is take a central case, it's called Desperados, and it will be part of the newest book of Jan Dietz, which will be published this year, hopefully. And it provides the support of business analysts to apply demo effectively. In this case, it concerns the cafeteria Desperados, which has clients and they can enjoy the atmosphere and order all kinds of drinks. And Yola runs the terrace and she takes care of the orders and delivers the drinks to the customers. enterprise engineering. So this, for the people that are the second time here, so joined my first session as well, this will be doubled. However, the feedback I got is that it was very difficult. So I tried to make it more easier this time. Demo is design engineering methodology for organizations, and it's a methodology to implement enterprise ontology. Last year, Jan Dietz published this book, and it has version demo 4 in it. A business architect wants to know how they can approach business problems in concrete terms. So he sees business processes, he sees business information and business rules, and from his gut feeling, he knows that they can't be seen separate. They have to be integrated. But how can you do that? How can you record that in a consistent way for an organization? In such a way that you can do something with it. So you don't have only the pictures, but you can actually, for instance, implement a business change, or you can develop an information system and implement it in an effective way. Also, we can properly determine the governance of business processes and business information. But how do you capture that in a model? To be able to do that, we have to understand how organizations work. And enterprise engineering considers organizations as social systems. A social system means that the active elements in a system are individuals. That means people. And with demo, we learn to understand how people cooperate, how they interact, how they make commitments. So for instance, we have an initiator-actor role. And that initiator-actor role is able to request for a certain product. And another actor role, the executor-actor role, is able to promise and provide that product to the initiator-actor role. That's the basic happy flow that is supported by demo. And of course, there are all kinds of deviations that during that process, the actor revokes his request, or the executor role revokes his promise, all kinds of reasons why. But within the presentation, we don't go into those details. So for the happy flow, we have coordination facts. The sale can be requested, then the sale can be promised, it can be declared, and finally accepted by the initiator-actor role. And it all goes on to have products. For instance, the initiator would like to have a cup of coffee. Then we can talk about the concept sale with a meaningless number, and that can be completed. Or another product could be that the initiator would like to know the time. And when it's provided, we have the product information providing meaningless number is done. Or the initiator would like to rent a car. All these are production facts, and the coordination facts are about that product. Demo has, this is an animation of the same standard flow that every business transaction has in it. And that's what demo does. It makes that pattern standard for every transaction. During the coordination act, business rule can be applicable. So for instance, before you can promise a certain transaction kind, another transaction kind may be performed earlier. For instance, the payment should be accepted before continuing with the first transaction. Or you need some facts. For instance, if there is a business rule that the initiator should be at least 18 years old, you must be able to check his age. Demo has certain specific symbols. So all coordination facts, including exceptions on the happy flow, are in a fixed pattern together, and that's called a transaction kind. The initiator actor role in this case is outside our focus and therefore is a gray box. However, the executor actor role is within our focus and that's a white box. The relationship with the transaction differs as well because the executor actor role has a red square, so he is responsible for that transaction kind. In demo 4, those two are combined. So because it's a one-to-one relation, the transaction kind and the executor actor role are in with one symbol. That's called the transactor role. And therefore, the governance is also in place, as well for the process as for the data. When we look at the demo model, we see 4 aspects of it. One is the cooperation model. This is the overview within the focus for all transaction rules. And the most important part and the relationship with USoft later on, all kinds of business rule apply during the coordination acts. And within one business process, we can have multiple transaction kinds that are related to each other. And in the process model is shown at what point, so at what coordination fact, must another transaction be initiated. And on the other hand, we have wait links that one or more transaction kind facts of another transaction kind have to be reached before you can continue with the other transaction. Two possibilities of such combination. On the left side, we see that transaction kind 2 has to be initiated after the request of transaction kind 1 is reached. And we see a wait link between the promised fact of transaction kind 2 before transaction kind 1 can be executed. On the right-hand side, we see the same 2 transaction kinds. However, the initiation of transaction kind 2 will only be done if transaction kind 1 is promised. And transaction kind 2 has to be completed, so the exact fact has to be reached before transaction kind 1 can proceed. We see this later on actually in the application of USoft. And finally, the 4th aspect model combines all facts that are really used within those business rules. So not everything is used or it's not present in the model. That's a very important thing. So this was a rehearsal of what we did Wednesday. However, I added a concrete example to show how important it is that we understand what human commitments mean and how it can be supported by automation. I'll go with this example of Coolblue. It's a company in the Netherlands, situated in Rotterdam. And from the first day on, I'm a very big fan of them because they understand that the satisfaction of a customer is the most important thing. And there they have their motto, anything for a smile. And I have multiple experiences that they really mean that and go for that. One day I was looking for screen protection for my telephone, and it seemed that nowhere these were available anymore. And after searching for weeks, I came on the website of Coolblue and they offered them again. So I decided to order one. And as I did, I was given a pop-up screen and they said I could order a second one for half the price. And because I was very fond that I could hold of them once again for the protection shield, so I ordered immediately the second. Then I got the request to pay for both, and I did. And normally with Coolblue, within a day, your orders will be delivered. However, it didn't. So I called them and I said, what about my delivery? And they said, oh, we're sorry because we only have one available in our stock. And I asked, why do you offer me then the second one? Yes, I'm sorry, but that's automated in our software. And then I asked, okay, why don't you send me the first one? And when the second one is available, you can send me the second one afterwards. And he said, if I do that, I won't be able to give you the 50% discount. And you could notice that the employee was really ashamed of this because he wanted to give me the smile. However, he was hampered by the automation of Coolblue. So after 50 years of automation, this is still happening in a lot of organizations. The human commitment should be supported by automation and not the other way around. So what you hear a lot still is change your process so will it fit into our automation module, and that's really a shame. Can that be different? Yes, it can. By revealing the essence of your organization with demo and define the lawful world with your business rules. And then what you will see in this presentation, you can implement software that support this essence and that you make sure that your business rules are constantly guarded. So half an hour and we have gained some time. I hope this part was more clear than last Wednesday. And now I'll go to the architecture that we came up with together with USoft. So on the left-hand side, we have our demo 4 model. First of all, the meta model that makes sure that the model is conforming the demo specification language. And then you are able to create multiple cases for organizations. A minimum of information then will go to the USoft platform where all demo rules will be in place. So a concise model can be guaranteed by the demo business rules. With that, you can create software that supports that organization. And you will see 2 different environments in the demonstration. One is a web application and the other one is based upon Windows. What we don't have yet, because it's a proof of concept and a very short time frame, as I showed you, there is no direct communication between Sparx and USoft, because we consider that very easy to achieve. So we didn't put any effort in that. Also, we don't really generate at the moment the software, because we know that USoft is capable of that. We focused on the rules that have to be applied in the demo part, and we focused on the rules creating the application. So when we look at the web application, it's not fancy. So we didn't do anything about the look and feel. This is generated with a standard template. However, you see all the information needed to support those two transactions. We see the sales drinks, transaction kind 01, and we see the payment of it, transaction kind 2. And on the right-hand side, we see the attribute types that go with the supporting of the coordination acts. And however, also in the Windows application, you see one screen per transaction kind. In the implementation, the client has a different view in its mobile application than Yola does, because they have other coordination acts that they have to perform. When I go to the web application, I can do that by clicking that link, and you see that there's also a read-only username and password for you to go there and to have a look at it. So I do this demonstration first. So here we see all available information. And for instance, if we click, I hope there's one in it. I found one, and you see in this case, it is a beer. The client is Dora Groen, and creation time, and etc. etc. Okay, I don't think there's anything here. No, I will do that in the Windows environment. So the complete architecture is based upon the demo 4 specification language, which will be available for everyone to download on the Enterprise Engineering Institute website, demo.nl. And we see the meta model for the first 3 aspect models, and we see the meta model of the fact model. In the USoft environment, we created a meta model for the demo part, and we created, and it will be generated, a model for the application. And the focus of this proof of concept are the 2 transaction kinds, sale completer and sale payer. And you see that it's initiated by a client, and we need, for the business rules that are applied, we need access to article sort facts, and we need access to person facts. So I will demonstrate 3 parts. I will demonstrate the situation where the first transaction kind has to be promised, and then the second transaction kind will be initiated, and the promise of the second transaction kind, so the promise to pay, is enough to continue with transaction kind 1. In the second part, we show that if we choose another pattern where the second transaction kind will be completed before the first transaction kind can continue, and the third part will be that there's a business rule applied that alcohol drinks cannot be sold to minors. So again, first this part, and I'll go to the environment directly. I'll go to the application environment. I go to the first transaction kind, and if I look for instances, we see the same beer as we saw in the web application, but for this demonstration, I will delete it first. And I will initiate a new order. I order a Fanta. The application knows that I'm the user and that I'm Dora Green. And I make sure that that transaction kind is able to do a request. So request is provided to me. I can select it on the form, and with that, the application supports my coordination act of requesting. Now we directly switch to what Yola should be presented, because now there is a requested fact, and Yola, in the role of executor, has to decide if it's declined or promised. In this case, she promises. And now we see that because, oh, I see I did it the other way around. I selected promise and wait until accept. So it's the right-hand side example. Sorry for that. And now we have to wait. We have to wait until the transaction kind 2 is completed. So I will start another. Maybe I can put them together. This is transaction kind 1. And this is transaction kind 2, I hope. I have to select it yet. And what we will see is that it's already started and proposing the possibility to do the request for the payment that will be performed by Yola, and the client can promise that he or she will pay, actually pay, and say, here is my money, and Yola has the ability to accept. That way, transaction kind 2 is fully completed. And when we now go to the transaction kind 1, we will see that we can perform the execution of it, and the declaration and the acceptance. So that was the first part. I will delete it again. And now I will select another pattern, wait upon request, and the promise is enough to execute. I select the Fanta again. I select Dora again. I do the request. And as soon as I will do the promise, it says, oh, you have to wait until TK of a transaction kind 02. And if we look where it waits for the promise. Now we go to the payments. And here we will see the request is there again. We perform it. We promise it. And if we now go to transaction kind 1, you will see that we can continue with it because the promise is there. So this situation could be because in this situation the promise is enough. However, if the desperados experience that a lot of clients are leaving before they pay, then they can implement another pattern and saying, okay, now you have to pay before we can continue. The third situation I have to look out to do it right. I have to set it up again. Make sure there are no instances anymore. And I start a new one. Now I let Dora order a beer. A request. So Dora has requested a beer, and then Yola wants to promise that. And as soon as she selects promise, an indication is shown to her that alcoholic drinks can only be served people over the age of 18. Because enterprise engineering states that every actor role has to be autonomous, it's still for Yola to decide if she promises or declines it. Because there can be circumstances, for instance, Dora is a minor, however, her dad is sitting on the terrace as well, and it's his birthday and she wants to surprise him. And if she explains that to Yola, and Yola says, in this case, it's all right, she can promise it as well. Okay, going back to the presentation. So, excuse me, I showed it the other way around. I first showed this one and then that one. However, this situation, we selected request by the client. Yola had to decide if it's going to be declined or promised. And after that, she can't continue with executing. She has to do the request first for the payment. And she does. And as soon as it's promised, then the both transaction kinds can continue parallelly. The second one, transaction kind has to be accepted. We see the same situation. And now the completely transaction kind 2 has to be performed until it's accepted, and then we can execute transaction kind 1. The third situation, we showed that you have to be over 18, and then a warning as soon as Yola wanted to promise it, a warning was shown that it violated a business rule. So I hope it was not too confusing by switching the two examples, but what can be possible soon? We already have a demo model in Sparx that can be used to analyze organizations. We can make a connection between Sparx and USoft with an API or a dataset format in native export. We can complete all demo rules within USoft. So you can have minimum information going from the demo model to the USoft platform, but still be able to have a complete concise model at USoft side. We can generate working software supporting that organization. And of course, we can implement the look and feel for the wishes of the organization that this software will be implemented for. And what could be possible? So if we meet again, and hopefully next time we can see each other live in real life, because online is a little bit difficult for me, you noticed. I would like to see you and then give a demonstration where you as a participant are able to download the software on your mobile, and you can really choose a role in the complete presentation and be able as a customer to order drinks, and that it actually will be delivered at your seat in the audience. So that completes my presentation, and maybe there are some questions put in that I can answer now.
Thanks a lot, Peter. I thank Peter on behalf of everyone for making this session a wonderful one. As of now, we haven't received any questions yet, but we request all the audience to post their questions in MS Teams channel.
Okay, so we continue to the Teams.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Peter, and thanks to everyone for your time and support throughout the session. Hope it is very informative and gives a deeper insight into the topic. Now, Peter will be available in MS Teams to have a detailed discussion and answer all your questions. The link to the MS Teams is posted in the chat window for your quick reference. If anyone is having any trouble in connecting to Teams, please let us know through the chat window or write us at registrations@eaglobalsummit.com. Thanks once again, everyone, and looking forward to host you all in another wonderful session shortly. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.